Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate, and we're looking at fear and loathing on the campaign trail on this Super Tuesday 2 with winner-take-all states. The campaign getting a little nastier in the last couple of weeks, and we're talking about it with Mary Anna Macuso, who is in West Palm Beach, Florida, head of the Young Republicans in that area, in that county. Many thanks for being back with us. Thanks as well to Ohio State Senator Capri Cafaro in New York. Here in the studio, he's a contributor to USA Today. David Andelman, editor emeritus of the World Policy Journal. Gérald Olivier, who is the author of Mitt Romney for the Renewal of the American Myth. And sociologist Davina Frau-Meggs, who teaches at the Sorbonne Nouvelle. Welcome back to university. Welcome back to all of you. Now, a lot of reactions coming in on the hashtag F24debate. This one kinder to Donald Trump. This nastiness has been caused by the media hype, the demonization of Trump, the division between races and classes, all created under 8 years of Obama. Gordon Krovitz in the Wall Street Journal doesn't see it that way. He says Mr. Trump's campaign has obliterated whatever line remained between politics and entertainment. And some are smiling about it. At the end of last month, the boss of U.S. television network CBS told a conference of investors about the pros and cons of the Trump campaign. Les Moon saying, it may not be good for America, but it's damn good for CBS. Man, who would have expected the ride we're all having right now? The money's rolling in, and this is fun. I've never seen like this. This is going to be a very good year for us. Sorry, it's a terrible thing to say, but bring it on, Donald. Keep going. Davina Frau-Meggs, your reaction to that?
I completely agree that there is a coming together of a real estate, and real is important in this campaign, in fact, because people are fed up with the promises, and so he's coming with, I know how to do things, and I can prove it, and you can see the towers in New York, and TV, and the total deregulation of American television and of American social media. And so there's
I get the sense that the head of CBS is saying that this is entertaining stuff. It's bringing in the viewers.
It's entertaining or not. What's important is that it's extreme, because that's what makes news. And what Trump is serving on a platter, he doesn't even need any ads or any marketing of his own behind him, and he doesn't have as much money in the campaign as all the other candidates. Right. The media, TV mostly, is doing it for it, and then all the social media are picking it up. I mean, he's understood completely the transmedia mechanics. You just have to have one soundbite that is extremely controversial, and he gets points just by being that. And on top of that, he gains in authenticity. He's not giving any langue de bois. He is free from all party obligation and ideology, which is what people now see in the Republican Party. And so he appears as more Republican than the Republicans.
But
there you go.
Let me bring in Capri Cafaro on this, because here in France, we're a little taken aback at basically the head of a major television network saying that, well, you know, it's entertaining stuff. It's making us lots of money. This is great. Isn't that a bit callous?
Sure, it's callous, but I mean, that's capitalism. That's part of what we do here and what we do across the globe. When media, there's an intrinsic relationship between media and politics in particular, and obviously these folks are in the business and they're looking to make money. Donald Trump obviously has been a network personality on NBC over the last decade in the United States on his Apprentice show, and as part of that, I think he's learned very well to figure out how to interface with the traditional American who's sitting on the couch watching network television, at home someplace in the middle of the country. And so I can understand from a European perspective how this may come off callous, because you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this is a contest for the leader of the free world, a leader of one of the largest, if not the largest economy on the planet, and somehow it's being reduced to ad time and tweets and who's going to make make a buck off of whom? And that is disconcerting, but I think that it's part of the reality that we live in with not only a 24-hour news cycle, but a 24-second news cycle. And we're dealing with that kind of setup now where people have such a short attention span. The only things that are going to grab headlines are the ones that are most salacious. And this is, I think, a symptom of a much larger trend that has been developing over the last 10 years.
Mariana Macunzo, I want you to be brutally honest with your Republican friends. When you see Donald Trump speak, are you seeing a possible statesman who will be at G8 summits and the likes? Or are you seeing the guy on Celebrity Apprentice who says you're fired?
Well, it's a mix of both these days. But here's the thing. He spent seasons on Celebrity Apprentice and doing Apprentice in general, and he had the ability and at his fingertips to see what moved the ratings. He has the metadata that most campaigns would kill for because he knows what the general public wants. He knows what they're thinking, and he knows what is going to get them to turn out. And so he's able to say those things. And with social media being as rampant as it is today, his campaign is on 24 hours a day. There is no slowing it down, and without a doubt, he has harnessed the American electorate for his entire audience. Everybody is patiently waiting for him to say the next outlandish thing.
David Andelman.
What most people don't realize is that this has been long coming. This has been long planned.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I date Trump's campaign to 2011, the spring of 2011, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington. 2,000 of the top media people in the country are there. Obama gets up on the stage to give the keynote speech. Trump is sitting in the audience with Lally Weymouth, the daughter of the owner of the Washington Post. And Obama spends 20 minutes taking down Trump, making fun of him, chastising him, holding him up
because
to
Trump had
ridicule.
suggested that he wasn't born in America. Or
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That is the moment, I am persuaded, that, and other people have suggested this as well lately, that this is the moment that Donald Trump said, I'm going to get even, I'm going to come back, I'm going to take apart
Really?
American
It's a
political
personal
system.
I think
vendetta?
that's true.
I think it started a little earlier because if you go back to his 1987 book, The Art of the Deal, everything he does today is already explained in the book. The whole thing about getting attention from the media for free, that was all in the book. So I think and he was thinking about the presidency before. At that debate, Obama did make fun of him, and Mr. Trump was quite embarrassed. And it's possible that he may want to get even, but there should be a better reason to want to be president
There
than
should
just
be,
that.
but that's Donald Trump.
But that's what's so astonishing is
Well,
that, in
no,
fact, the
I
Republican
actually think
establishment is getting what he's been trying to get for a while. It's rage. And what we have, Obama has come up as a figure of reason over the last 8 years. And so now we have emotion. We have rage over reason.
Such a good
sort
point.
of it's a pendulum balance right now, which is typical of American
Well,
elections. And then winner
he
takes
seized
all.
the moment. He has seized a moment in the
Yes,
American
seized a moment.
political vectors, okay?
That's true.
Where he has perfectly synchronized with a large part of the American public.
Capri Cafano?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that, first of all, Mr. Trump, I actually think, believes he's the only person that can make America great again. I think that he absolutely believes that he's the one person that can turn around America. I think that's why he's doing this. I think that 2011, I think, was probably a very seminal turning point for him, but he talked about running in 2000, for example. So this is something that has been been kicked around for a while, but I do believe that he got fed up and he decided to pull the trigger to a lot of risk, frankly, to his businesses. He lost a lot of contracts from some of the things that he has said. And so, he's paid some price within his business dealings for running for president of the United States. But we've talked a lot about authenticity in this debate, and I will say that this also translates over to the dialogue we're having on the Democratic side between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. The fact that Bernie Sanders, whom I think by all accounts has been, summarily dismissed for months as this, sort of gadfly 74-year-old socialist independent Democrat from Vermont, all of a sudden is winning states. And if Donald Trump was not in this race, that would be the story of this election cycle, because Bernie Sanders is raking in these these victories with states. He upset in Michigan, north of Ohio, and part of that is because of that authenticity. People see Hillary Clinton as someone who will say whatever it takes to get elected, and they see Bernie Sanders as someone who has been at least consistent in his commitment on issues like income inequality, environmental standards, labor standards, and the like. And so you're seeing a lot of people feeling the burn, as we say, because of that. And that people just want to blow the whole system up, get rid of all the career politicians, and start from scratch. How we look at the other end of this, I have no idea.
All right, and we're talking about the fact that who shouts the loudest has worked so far, most notably in the Republican debates. Now, on the campaign trail Monday, Bernie Sanders in Charlotte, North Carolina, Hillary Clinton in Chicago, Illinois, mouthing virtually exactly the same words.
Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, all of the major religions have always taught us that love trumps hatred.
We have to have a big vote tomorrow that can send a strong message that love trumps hate.
Love trumps hate, a little play on words. Gérald Olivier, is that going to be an effective message in the fall when you're facing the real Donald Trump?
No, I don't think it's going to be enough. But I think
how will the Democrats be acting?
Well, what is significant is that in message, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are not that far apart. They are both very much anti-trade, free trade, and they are very much, both of them, focused on American jobs. So you were quite right talking about the fact that Donald Trump picked the right moment, because there is a definite anger within the American electorate, and there is a definite fear about the economic future. And so both of these candidates are rising together in parallel because they both talk to that same fears from the opposite end of the political spectrum, but they answer the same fear. Now, come November, I think Hillary Clinton, if she was to face Donald Trump, would not have such an easy time, because she's been around the longest, and right now American voters don't want anyone that's already been here.
Gérald, you've got to vote. We have a Twitter vote going up on the F24 debate account, and when we tallied a little while back, it was 370 votes, 50% for Hillary, 50% for Bernie Sanders. So people evenly split on who would make the better candidate facing Donald Trump. Davina Frau-Meggs, your thoughts on that?
Suddenly I'm blanking. No, I think that if Trump is alone in front of Hillary, Hillary still has more chances. Because she'll have shifted towards both the middle while embarking some of Bernie's ideas, Sanders' ideas, and that will appeal to a lot of undecided, and I think she has a better chance because she'll integrate some of the requirements maybe of young people if she's careful enough. Trump will still polarize a little bit too much, and I think eventually he will be cornered. If Trump is alone versus Cruz, but that's making Trump
different sides.
You're making Trump win on the Republican side. If Rubio and Kasich get themselves out and he's alone versus Cruz, for instance, we are going to see a different campaign until the convention. And I would hold my breath before I talk about the November, because we may see still some shakeups and some corrections if the Republicans are less divided.
All right, let's look at the tally for the number of delegates so far. And we can see on the Republican side, Davina Frau-Meggs points it out, that Ted Cruz is the one who is second. Now, these are the states that were up for grabs this Tuesday, including, of course, Florida and Ohio, which are winner-take-all states. So a win in both of those states would put Donald Trump would give him more than half the delegates he needs. David Andelman, you talked about a plateau for the far right in this country, France, in a general election, and a general election in the U.S.
General election in the U.S., let's assume it's going to be Trump and Hillary, because I think for the moment that's the most likely scenario. I just don't see a numerical possibility of Bernie Sanders defeating Hillary in the convention, given the concept of the superdelegates, most of whom have already been chosen. And on the Trump side, again, Kasich has a very narrow, if he takes Ohio tonight, then he has a very narrow path, but very narrow. It's narrow.
But as Davina Fraumeck says, he's not in second place in the delegate count. It's Ted Cruz.
But Ted Cruz, I think, has basically run
today.
his table as far as the southern states and so on that are his real, his real strength. But so let's assume it's going to be Trump and Hillary. Again, I think the American people are sufficiently rational. There are a sufficiently rational majority of the American people to recognize that we can't turn over the United States to a Donald Trump. We can't turn over the nuclear triggers to a Donald Trump. We can't turn over the Middle East, Europe, Asia, Trans-Pacific, every conceivable stake internationally to a Donald Trump. He will blow up the system. And
I would
so,
agree with you, except for the fact that apparently that hasn't happened yet. I think that every single step of the way, we've been waiting for the rational, American voter to step forward and say, "Wait a minute, what are we? We're not going to do this," and it's not stopped.
But it's a four-party race, so four-part race on the Republican side, and we haven't even factored in, first of all, the crossover voters who are able to cross over in many states to vote, and second of all, we haven't factored in the vast number of independents who also have not yet cast their ballots. I am persuaded that Trump cannot win. Trump needs to get
taking independent votes in Ohio.
Trump needs to win 90% of the white male vote in the United States in order to become president. And no one has ever done that.
Reaction on the hashtag F24 debate. No one else has a better option. That is why we have Trump. He is awful, but all of the other candidates are awful too. Mariana Mancuso. How's it going to go for candidate Trump in a general election?
In order for Trump to win in November, it will hinge on who he chooses as his vice president. In order to win primary elections when it comes to the Republican Party, all the candidates have to swing so far right to bring in the super voters, the voters that turn out on the primary season, and to go out to the polls. Then what happens is once they become the nominee, they come more to a moderate stance, and then they are able to encompass the base. We saw Mitt Romney try to do this in 2012 with the choice of Congressman Paul Ryan, and we saw this with, John McCain choosing governor from Alaska, Sarah Palin. What is going to happen if and when Trump becomes the nominee of the Republican Party? He will have to choose his vice president extremely carefully, because as it is right now, he is plateaued. He's saying all the outlandish things that everybody wants, and social media is eating it up. At the end of the day, November will come down to his vice president and the millennial vote.
And will you campaign for him with gusto?
We haven't voted for a vice president yet.
Mariana Mancuso, will you campaign for him with gusto?
I am prepared to fall in line with my Republican Party and support our nominee, whoever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Quite important. This is a very, very good statement for the Republicans, because it's true that the real campaign hasn't even started yet. We're still in the primaries. And so let's wait until the general election campaign begins. And by that time, the tone, at least among Republicans, assuming it is Donald Trump who has the nomination, and assuming the Republican Party stays together and falls in line behind their nominee, the tone will be much more civil. It already was at the last debate. They quieted down and they debated the issues. They weren't insulting each other as they did in the past. So I think what we'll see, if it turns out to be Trump the nominee, that
I don't believe in that.
the conservatives have to fall in line.
But Gérald, you say the tone will be more civil, but they did exit polls on Super Tuesday, the first Super Tuesday, in a lot of the states, and the number of people who agreed with Trump on the ban on letting Muslims in the country, the numbers were like in the 60s to 70% range.
Yeah, well, that's because of the mood of the American electorate. No, but the real point is, everybody says Trump is not electable because he's not presidential. He just doesn't deserve to be there. He's not the type of person to become president. Maybe we're in a new era of where TV figures become politicians and it's acceptable. Remember Ronald Reagan 30 years ago? He was an actor. People were making fun of the fact that an actor, this guy coming from Hollywood.
He was also governor of California.
He had been, but he still was an actor to start with. And many people made fun of the fact that he thought politics was another stage and he was going to act another role. Maybe we've gone one step beyond, and because of TV reality, we have a TV reality star that is now running for president, and it's all possible that he might become
Divina Frau Meggs?
I think there's no reason for Trump to change his discourse. It's discourse that works. The Republicans will have to align themselves behind that discourse and not hope that he will tone down. If he toned down, he fights against himself. People are electing him on his authenticity and on his capacity for leadership that he has proven in real life, not in fake politics. And he is a new entrant in politics talking about anti-establishment. That's exactly what people want. There's no way he's going to succumb to whatever the establishment would ask him to do.
I agree with both of these people to one extent. I do believe that this election could dramatically change the entire nature of the Republican Party. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily for the good. But not necessarily
just
for
the Republican Party or the tone of U.S. politics? Will the lesson, will the
I
lesson
think
from
it's
this
both.
election
I
be
think
if
it's
you
both.
shout an insult,
to a degree, both.
you'll do well?
To a degree, both. Yes, to a degree, both. But certainly the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is embracing this Weltanschauung, if you will, this worldview of Donald Trump, to a degree that no party has ever really embraced that sort of a concept before.
And it's the way out from a Tea Party sort of entanglement. So it's a way out.
All right, first, Mariana Mancuso.
Sorry.
If you look at the candidacy of who were celebrities, you can look at Jesse the Body Ventura. He went on to win. You saw Al Franken become senator. And even in California, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger won his election. And at the end of the day, the reason that these people won was not based on policy, but it was based on celebrity status. Now you add that into an electorate that is fed up with the past sluggish economy over the past few years, a partisan White House, and too much regulation. People are going to turn out and they're going to vote for the guy that's the businessman, the guy that can handle our country and can get it moving, because it hasn't thus far. And it's time for
Capri Cafaro, being on a television show, a reality TV show, will that help your political campaign?
I don't know. Maybe it would. Who knows? I'm term limit, thank goodness. So I'm not looking to get a reality show anytime soon. But I think that we are facing, I think, an entirely new dynamic in American politics in this regard. That as one of my colleagues was mentioning, we are now, I think, entering this new era of it being acceptable to, basically where is that blurred line between entertainment and politics, and frankly, where the rubber meets the road is when you actually have to govern. So all of this kabuki theater that occurs in the next, between now and November, and has been happening for the last year, all of that is just, frankly, takes a very different skill set than it takes to govern. Now, one other thing I'd like to just point out, because we haven't really talked about it, is what impact the top of the ticket is going to have on, for example, United States Senate races. I know this is something that the National Republican Party and the National Democratic Party here have talked about. What happens with a Trump versus Hillary general election? What kind of message should their members of Congress, congressional candidates, Senate candidates have when they're dealing with a coordinated campaign? And so we may see a really very different outcome on some of these other down ballot elections, particularly because Donald Trump, if he is the nominee, is bringing in new people into the electorate that have either never participated ever, who've been sitting on the couch watching The Apprentice for the last 10 years and are not voters, or some of these crossover independent and Democrats. So I think we're dealing with an electorate that hasn't necessarily participated, that hasn't necessarily been polled. We don't have a lot of data to predict, and anything can go from top to bottom.
Expect more uncertainty. I want to thank you, Capri Cafaro, for joining us from New York. Mariana Mancuso in West Palm Beach, Florida. I also want to thank Divina Frau Meggs, Gérald Olivier, and David Andelman. Stay with us. Our Media Watch segment is next. And we say hello to Emma James.
Hi there.
Donald Trump, as the boss of CBS said, is the gift that keeps on giving.
He certainly is, and he does keep everyone talking. But it almost seems now that people are starting to realise that what seemed impossible at the start of this presidential bid now seems almost inevitable, that he will at least get the Republican nomination. And there seems to be a bit of panic setting in almost with the way that people are covering this now. Matt Verka is the cartoonist for Politico. He's come up with this particular drawing the hate and fear generation station, making it look akin to a nuclear disaster, basically, with Donald Trump exploding out of that station.
This is what you were saying, Davina, about a monster created by the Republican Party.
Absolutely. I think these are all keywords of a Republican, and it's the Republican Party that is melting down on itself.
And that is a theme that we're seeing in a lot of different articles. The Daily Beast has this piece looking at the mess the Republicans are in from a very democratic perspective. This particular writer, John Favreau, says that it is no longer a functioning institution. It's a party that cannot govern itself, let alone the rest of the country. Now, he says he first saw this problem coming along in 2008 when Sarah Palin was talking to an angry mob, saying that Obama didn't see America like they did, and he was palling around with terrorists, and they all started shouting treason.
Hang on a second. You can say that, but who controls both houses of the U.S. Congress, David Annan?
Well, of course, the Republicans do. But the key question is, again, that down-ballot issue is very, very important. The Democrats could, in theory, take control in the Senate, and that would be an interesting dynamic. But even more so, we could see a Newt Gingrich moment where there really is a huge flip, and the Democrats take the House as well. Then we have a huge problem again.
All right, heard the prediction here.
Yes, and the New York Times is saying much the same thing about the fact that Trump is no accident. It is the fault of the Republican Party. They said the rage was bound to spin out of the establishment's control sooner or later. He's not an accident. His party had it coming. Now, finally, one last little interesting analogy here. It's not the normal kind of political analogy that we tend to hear.
Oh, I know who that
but
is.
The Atlantic says that Donald Trump is the equivalent, political equivalent of a wrestling heel. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's the guy who's brought in by the organisers to really stir up trouble, get the crowds booing and jeering. And this whole article says that's basically what he is there to do. But, as we all know, sometimes the bad guy is the one who gets the most support, and that seems to be the case here.
All right. James, I want to thank you. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here. Complete coverage of the U.S. elections on our website, France24.com.